We're going to start, though, with this huge story. Manchester United and the owner of INEOS and chairman of French club Nice, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, has announced his intention to buy the club. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said before that he'd like to buy United. But I guess the question, Kaveh Solokol, is how much is he going to have to bid for this one? Because I think before he said that he felt Premier League clubs were slightly overinflated.
Yeah, I think before he bought Nice in 2019, one of the reasons he decided to buy Nice is that he felt Premier League clubs were too expensive. But he tried to buy Chelsea last year. He made a very, very late bid, £4.25 billion. Too late to buy Chelsea. A couple of weeks after that, he came out and said he was interested in buying Manchester United as well. But the problem was United were not for sale then. Everything has now changed. The Glazer family, before the World Cup, came out and said they were looking for new investment that could even mean selling the club. They have got a investment bank in New York, the Rain Group, advising them, marketing Manchester United on their behalf. Same investment bank Roman Abramovich used to sell Chelsea, and they've basically been saying, if you're interested in buying Manchester United, contact us, let us know. We'll check you out. We'll see if you've got enough money to do the deal. If you do, we'll show you the books. You can have a look at the numbers and then make a bid. That is what is happening at the moment. Interestingly, Sir Jim Ratcliffe was the last person to bid for Chelsea. He's the first person to show his hand and come out in public through his company to say that, yes, he does want to buy Manchester United.
Yeah, he's taken his time about it, though, because obviously this was, the Glazers kind of announced this some months ago, didn't they? If he was to own United, what would the fans want? I guess, what would they get?
That's a very good question. I think football supporters these days know that when somebody comes out and says, I want to buy your club, you don't instantly go out singing and dancing in the streets. You ask, why do these people want to buy my club? Is it to make money? Do they actually support the club? Do they have the interest of the club and the community at heart? So these are the kind of questions that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to have to answer, because Manchester United have historically had problems with previous owners. I'm not just talking about the Glazers either. Jim Ratcliffe, one box that he does tick is that he's a Manchester United supporter. He was born in Greater Manchester, has supported United all his life, although his family did have season tickets at Chelsea as well. But still, people are going to ask questions. Why does Sir Jim Ratcliffe want to buy Manchester United? And they'll look at what he's done at Nice. I think he's owned Nice for something like 4 years. I think they finished somewhere like 9th, 5th, currently 10th in the French First Division. So I don't think Sir Jim Ratcliffe would be the kind of owner who would start spending hundreds of millions of pounds on transfers. There is a lot that needs to be done at United, especially redeveloping the stadium. And I think there could be a key role as well for Dave Brailsford, who I think is a sporting director at Nice and is very closely involved with Sir Jim Ratcliffe when it comes to managing some of his sports investments. So he could have a role to play as well if Sir Jim Ratcliffe buys Manchester United. But I think it's a big if, because there's going to be a lot of interest from the US and the Middle East in buying United.
It's interesting you talk about the French side of it with Nice. Let's bring in ESPN's Julien Laurens into this conversation now to give us an insight into Sir Jim Ratcliffe at Nice. Good evening to you, Julien. Good to speak to you. Look, we heard there from Kaveh, that Ratcliffe's had Nice, certainly bought it back in 2019, so for some 4 years. How's his ownership viewed there in France then?
I think it's quite interesting because it's a smaller scale, of course, than United. Ligue 1 is a smaller league than the Premier League. But I think what we make of Ratcliffe and Nice now, so it's 3.5 years. He bought the club in August 2019 for 100 million euros, so 88 million pounds at the time. I think the intentions have been very good. To be fair, I think you could see that he wants and wanted to do well. The investment financially has been good. Again, on a Ligue 1 scale, on a Nice scale, they've spent 200 million euros in those 3.5 years. And before United fans start saying, oh, that's what we need in one summer, Nice don't have the revenue that Manchester United have. Ligue 1 don't bring the same money that the Premier League brings. So just think about the scale. But 200 million already for a club like Nice in Ligue 1 was a lot of money. They invested quite a lot in young players. And I think to some extent that has worked. But Kaveh is right. In terms of results, it's been a bit underwhelming, really. Let's be honest. They finished 6th the first season with Patrick Vieira. Then they finished 9th. then fifth with Christophe Galtier, who then left to go to PSG, where he's now. And then currently this season is a bad one because, and that's the other thing, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has also made some wrong choices. Lucien Favre coming as a manager this season was the wrong one. Maybe sticking to the former team that was there when he took over was the wrong decision as well. So he's clearly still learning. But you can't deny that he loves football, and I think he wants to do well in every club that he owns.
Do the fans like him? Because it's widely known that as Carve was saying, that Manchester United fans don't have a great relationship with the Glazers at all. So do the fans like him? Do the Nice fans like him?
Yeah, it's been a bit up and down, I have to be honest. The Nice fans are, especially the Ultras, are hard to please, let's be honest. And I think, the thing would be the same with the United fans. Once Ratcliffe took over, I think the expectations, especially from the Nice fans and the hardcore fans, was huge. Suddenly it was like, okay, we can compete with PSG and the Qatari money. We can compete with Marseille, the neighbors or the rivals, if you want. And it hasn't happened. So at times it was good, and they reached a cup final, for example, last summer that they lost, but still. And yet there was still a lot of like, is that it really? And I think the expectations were certainly higher than what he brought. So the fans were on board. Then they doubted, then they were back on board, and they don't always have really understood. They haven't really understood all the time the project and the direction, and they kept changing. And like Kave said, Dave Brailsford arriving and kind of taking charge of the team for someone who's not really into football, has never been into football, I think was a bit strange for a lot of fans. So it's been really, I think, a mixed relationship between Ratcliffe and his team and the Nice fans.
How will this be met by the Nice fans, that he's potentially interested in the likes of Manchester United? This has got to be quite fearful for them, you'd think.
Yeah, you're right. I think we should and explain the rule again. You can own two clubs. There's no problem, and he owns already two because he owns Lausanne in Switzerland too. But they can't play in the same European competition. So Europa League and Champions League, that's fine, but you can't have them both in the Champions League, or the three of them in the Champions League, for example. And at the moment, Nice are not a Champions League club. They're nowhere near finishing in the top three in Ligue 1, even the top four if we get an extra place in the new Champions League format, if you want. So at this moment in time, there could not be a conflict there. United aim for the Champions League. Nice right now, if they do Europa League, is great already. However, clearly, if he goes and buys Manchester United, if you're a Nice fan, you would think that the investment coming to Nice won't bring them to the Champions League, because then there would be a big issue and he would have to sell one of the two clubs. So it looks like if he goes and get United, either he sells Nice, which is a possibility, of course, and I think he would make a profit on it, or he keeps Nice, but clearly not to take them to the Champions League.
Yeah, interesting times ahead for them. Thank you so much for joining us, Julien.
Thank you.